Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm really glad that you're here because today is going to be a little bit different. I know that throughout all of my teachings and everything on this channel, the majority of it is more beginner-friendly creature design. However, it's not actually what I specialize in. Well, it is creatures that I specialize in, but we're going to go scarier this time. I am a huge fan of horror, so if you love horror, if you like the evil things that go bump in the night, if you watch, Poltergeist, Freddy Krueger, anything dealing with demons, stick around. Maybe I can help you break through that barrier of making your stuff look friendly, and you want to make stuff look scarier. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just using a ballpoint pen. Now, whenever I do heads and faces, I tend to just do the sphere for the head, and I always establish the direction in which the eyeballs are going to be looking. That helps me dictate where the rest of the body is going to be turning. So if you have trouble with your figures, always know that your body mainly follows the direction in which you're looking. Okay, so if you can at least establish that right away, then that's good. So, what's the first tip that I can give when making stuff look scary? Well, for starters, it's the eyeball. You'll see here that I'm putting in some pretty creepy round eyes. Okay, that's the first indication of making things look scary versus making things look too human. Not too human in the sense that there's anything wrong with that. No, because we're doing a humanoid figure. But we tend to draw eyeballs with the corner on the left and right of the eye. Okay, so say for instance you want to draw an eye. Okay, and then we have the eye right here. There's so many shapes throughout the world. You have your caruncula on the corner, your tear duct, and you have your eyelid. You got your cornea, your iris, everything inside there. Okay, the corners where the eyelashes end, and then in the middle where your the caruncula and the tear duct and everything right before the nasal cavity and the nasal column, all of that. We associate that with an eyeball. So we look at nature and we go, hey, it's in lizards, it's in goats, it's in people, birds. But if you take that corner away and you just make the eyeball rounded, it eliminates almost any familiarity with things that we can associate with people. Now let's think about nature and what it has for us in this regard. Squid, sharks, anything with round, black, merciless eyes that look like they don't care about you. It just wants to eat you. Well, guess what? You can bring that into your figures too. Now when it comes to scary humanoids, you have a lot of opportunity to really play with that. The other great thing about drawing humanoids is that you can manipulate some of our normal bodily anatomy to however you like. Okay, I'm going to try not to draw Baraka, but I love Baraka. So we'll see if we can make some things a little creepy right around the mouth. Okay, and then what I'm doing here is I'm just putting in a rather familiar shape for the head, maybe making it a little bigger. All kinds of movies are flooding into that, I'm thinking about referencing, like The Hills Have Eyes, anything creepy or demonic. Alright. Also, when you do this, even though you're drawing something humanoid, there are still rules for anatomy that you have to think about. So, for example, how do limbs attach to the other body parts? What body parts are you going to have on there? Notice how I'm spending a lot of time on that face. Okay, most of the emotion and most of what we're going to feel for this character is going to happen in the face. That's pretty crazy. This is so much fun, everybody. If you busted your sketchbooks out, great. Keep drawing. Let's see what you can come up with. If you're just watching me and you want to give a little bit of time before you decide to draw, That's fine too. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the creature is looking this direction. Okay, now it's not at us, but it's almost at us, just so we can kind of show off that face here, and let's see what happens. The other thing that I'm doing is I just want to figure out how wide to open that mouth. These teeth, I don't think were ever meant to shut correctly. This thing is a demonic entity, and when it shuts its mouth, it may not feel pain, so it probably just started biting and biting and biting, and it just moved its jaw around and moved its teeth around until it can clamp down perfectly. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just lightly brushing over some pen strokes. So you're probably wondering, hey, why am I not using a pencil right now? And the answer is, I love using ballpoint pen, and also it forces you to put yourself in check. All right, one of the things that I talk about a lot on this channel, it's going to ruffle some feathers, is that erasers are not good for art. Okay, you can argue in the comments, that's fine. I know I'm going to get some backlash for that, but they're not good. They're an excuse. So when you draw with pen, it prevents any and all use of erasing, and you're at the mercy of your own hand control. Okay, and you're forcing yourself to just let go, and that's what you want to do. Just let go and take a creative and constructive step back and look at your work. Okay, if you have lines that you're not really agreeing with when you're drawing in pen, what can you do to really change the silhouette without thinking that you ruined anything? Okay, you've probably heard the term happy accidents before. Okay, well, how can a happy accident happen in a drawing like this? Because if you look at the head, it's not really established yet. It's kind of fluffy, but there are dozens and dozens of lines. Now, with it being a humanoid, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So let's put a more thicker head up here. Okay, and that kind of works. Almost extraterrestrial-like. And then we'll have to wrap that around. So it's got a big noggin. All right, the next thing that I like doing is once we establish the direction in which the eyes are facing, we can then draw the shoulders. Okay, now very lightly. Okay, if you're doing this digitally too, you could do the same thing, but avoid that Control-Z, folks. All right, if you're doing this traditionally, keep your pencil light if you're using a pencil. If you're using a pen and your pen bleeds a lot, then turn it slightly to the side and feel the roughness of either the brass or aluminum tip, whatever your pen is made out with, and just slowly start to brush across that. Now my palm is not resting completely against the paper. I'm keeping it up just a little bit by using my pinky, and it's kind of like my pinky doing a push-up like this, and I just hold it off of the page. But I'll put my shoulder joints in here. Okay. It's usually a good idea to, if you're not familiar with figure design, really to have a gesture of what type of stance your character is going to have. Now with this one, I'm thinking of a more ready to battle type stance, but what I'm doing is I'm just establishing where these shoulders might be. Okay, if this creature has a thick set of shoulders, maybe a thick neck, okay, you want to kind of portray that in there. All right, but you still need to show some of that neck. The jaw, you're not really going to see much of the chin because the jaw is opening down. See how light I'm keeping all of these strokes? That's what you want to do. All right. Now the jaw, as I'm drawing this, it kind of does seem a little crooked, but we can fix that as the sketch goes on. This is why you sketch lightly. See all the overlapping lines? Eventually, you're going to land on a set of lines that actually does look good. That's when you're going to follow that and start to darken it a little bit. Okay, so for example, I'm pretty happy with the way the creature's ear looks right here, and then followed by the temple. Okay, so I'm just going to darken right there. I'm not applying a lot of ink, just enough to show some shadow right there. And I'm also rather happy with the trapezius muscles right here. I don't want the trapezius muscles to be darker than the head. The head is in front. See how I committed to that shape? Okay, I made it a little darker. I'm also going to strengthen some of the ear. Maybe the ear goes all kinds of ways. Maybe he has cauliflower ear, like, I don't know. Okay, and I can probably put spikes on the head, and let's see what else happens. All right, this is so much fun. There's definitely a lot of possibilities with this. Okay, so you remember what I was saying earlier about how the direction in which you look usually dictates how your body will follow. All right, so think about what this creature is doing. Probably sneaking up on somebody. I'm thinking instantly a first-person shooter game like Ill, Dead Space. I hope Ill comes out soon. Those of you that know about Ill, it looks phenomenal. You know, the Callisto Protocol, like any of those games where it has just some really horrific creatures in there. Okay, I really like the head shape on that one. Okay, and as we move forward with this, I have the direction in which I put the shoulders, and then notice how the head is tilted a little bit, and it's still looking in this direction because I don't want to be predictable with everything. Next up, I'm going to give a wireframing of a rough idea of what I want the arms to be doing. Okay, so as I move the page up, it might get a little blurry at the top, but I'm going to be drawing more in the center, so I'm going to try to adjust this as much as I can. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of brushing in where I want the main frame to be for the fingers. Okay, this is going to be a pretty creepy, I don't know what it is actually. But that's the fun part. We don't know what it is, but we know it's humanoid and we know it's creepy. So let's keep going with this. All right, now, I have a pretty good idea of what I want the arms to be now. This is going to be slightly foreshortened up here. This one is going to be the main selling point, and I'm going to have more elongated, almost vampire-like, like true form fingers, you know, sharp claws, Nosferatu style. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not actually drawing Nosferatu. As a matter of fact, maybe I should start putting some different horns on here. I also won't put an even row like Darth Maul, even though Darth Maul is pretty wicked. So we'll see what happens. And again, as you sketch, you'll get more ideas as time goes on. Now, a lot of times also it's a good idea to walk away from your art so you don't become too frustrated. And when you take some time away from it and then come back, it's almost like a new set of eyes are looking at it. And that's really, really important. It's no different than sketching digitally and flipping the canvas. So it's like a new set of eyes are checking out your own work, and then you see flaws and all, everything that is wrong with your picture. If you're drawing along with me, you've gotten this far, take a look. What did you do? Are you happy with your sketch? Does it look wonky? Like what's happening? All right, so we're just going to put some indication of delts in here. Remember, this is a demon, so it's not super strong. It is strong, but it's not super duper built. It's more of like a lanky type build. So we'll see how that goes. But we still want to follow some of the human anatomy that we could have in there. Okay, we're going to stretch some of the body parts out. Now again, I'm going to be drawing slightly off screen down here, but I'll be moving it up as time goes. But we need to figure out the clavicle area, so let's do that first. It's going to be rather human-like. We got to put the delts in. If you're unfamiliar with human anatomy and it kind of intimidates you, or you don't really know what happens in certain areas, just take some time, go on Google, go on Pinterest, and just type in human anatomy and be specific about the areas that you want to learn. Okay, it's easier to learn in segments versus trying to overwhelmingly take in information for the entire body. It's no different than being a creature designer and not knowing where to start, because having to know animal anatomy is so daunting and you don't know where to start, right? Well, just pick a species that you admire, or like a certain genome of animals, certain biome, and just study those. So for example, if you want to be a creature designer right this second, you're watching this video and you have no idea where to start, just study big cats. Okay, big cats, mountain lions, jaguars, panthers, anything. Okay, dealing with felines, dealing with cats and maybe similar animals to those. Okay, maybe like little rodents. And over time, when you start building up your library of that, your mental library, then you can pull from that mental library and actually draw on the fly without, having to, well, you can draw on the fly without having to constantly look at reference. All right, this part's a little wonky, so I'm going to add some thickness here. And then we'll call it as it is for the time being, because the bicep's going to be a little stretched out right there. Okay, your pectoralis here, and then you have your very skinny demon. Of course, the torso is going to be wrapped around here. Since this arm is lifted up, the rear delt will be pushed upwards, so it will be constricting that trap right there, and then you got your delts, got your clavicle coming down. And really, you only need an indication. You don't need to be perfect with it. So maybe that pec is stretched out. Remember, this is also a humanoid. It's a demon. This thing doesn't exist. So you have some playroom with making things believable while also making them up. Okay, so we have that craziness. I'm really liking this eye. Just keep looking at this eye. It's probably going to be jet black and maybe have a small reflection there. You can always alter it digitally after it's done. Now the light source is going to be hitting this figure from, looks like the forehead. Okay, so anything below is going to be having a cast shadow. And now I'm not putting in the cast shadow yet because there's a lot we got to do for the head. But for the most part, this whole neck part, chest and everything will be in shadow. It's not even going to be in much detail. You don't need to. So if you're doing these figures, it doesn't matter if it's demonic or whatever, just pick a focal point. That way the viewer, us, we are not overwhelmed by a sea of sameness with all of your details and everything, because that not only does it get annoying, we don't know what to focus on, so we don't want to look at it anymore. I know it's kind of harsh, but just pay attention to what you want the selling point to be on your creatures. Every single character you guys are drawing right now will have that. It'll have a selling point. Now see, I made a goof, and I'm not going to point it out yet. I want you guys to catch it. Those of you that have a rough idea of anatomy, this is what happens to us. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have with drawing. I made a goof, and I'm not going to draw on it right now, but I want you to see if you can point it out. You don't have to comment, because I'm going to, well actually yeah, you could comment. I mean, I'm going to announce it, but there is a goof there. Alright, now I'm just going to push my sketchbook up here, so all this stuff may be a little blurry, and then I'm just going to poke it up here. Okay, so I'm just going to do the flat part of the wrist. Okay, and it's probably going to get a little thicker, but remember, there's not a lot of muscle down there for this guy. Speaking of that, remember, your creatures don't have to be built. They don't have to be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, even though it's fun to do because all the muscles are showing. Some of the best UFC fighters out there, and people that can fight in general, are small and scrawny and lanky, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, Now we're getting somewhere, so we got to figure out the knuckles. I will accentuate those. I'll put in some spheres. Okay, let's see if we can make this truly weird, huh? I'm going to keep these two fingers together. Now, thing about fingers, these are going to be long and lanky and have disgusting sharp nails on the end. You can make them long, but you have to justify that, okay? It has to fit the creature or fit the humanoid that you're making. Think about what your pinkies do. Just look at your own fingers. How do they spread apart? You know, when you do all kinds of weird positions. Okay, we haven't done the thumb yet, but you have to account for each individual knuckle attaching to each individual finger and what it's doing. Now, this is the other thing. Hands aren't easy. But if you can't go to figure drawing class, and maybe you don't have the internet with you, draw your own hand. It does help. All right, there we go. And you want to add a little bit of uncertainty with your fingers too. Okay, so sometimes some of the fingernails might be clawed and you don't want them all to be straight. So put a little hook on them. Okay, do something cool and unexpected. There we go. You still have to add the thickness at the end of the finger to show that the bone ends and the nail begins. You don't have to. It's just a good indication. It kind of helps the illusion that there are bones underneath the skin. Okay, there we go. All right. Comment below if you're having fun. What are you drawing? Okay, you going through a lot of tough times now with your art? You feeling lost? You know, I do have videos to help you with that. I try to tap into the human psyche as much as I do artistic skill when it comes to drawing. You know, they go hand in hand. Okay, check out my latest videos where I talk about perseverance. I talk about, you know, the psychological side. You feel lost, you know where to start. Okay, sometimes just writing the stuff down helps the best, talking to people, and also, you probably have that one sketchbook that has not been touched. Go get it right now. You've probably been watching me for almost 20 minutes. I don't know how long I've been recording. I'm just drawing. Go get that sketchbook. All right, so we're going to be placing some details around the wrist. Just want to make sure that each section or bony landmark is popping through here. I'm still being really loose with it, so if you're drawing with a pen right now, just be really loose. Don't overcommit. Don't worry about excessive skin wrinkles or spikes or anything along those lines. What we're doing is we're just lightly brushing the pen across the paper, and then once those markings overlap, it's going to start to fill the gaps in without you obsessing about one small area to put the details in. So you can see here, and the top of the hand, where the tendons are, going back to the carpal bones, you got the wrist. All of these light overlapping lines are starting to fill the gaps, and I'm barely touching the paper right now. But what it's doing is it's giving me a cool texture. So if you find yourself doing the same types of textures over and over again, you want to know how to branch out, that's a good way to do it. I like to brush up the pen strokes too, very lightly. All right, also, one thing that I forgot to mention is if you have problems with your pens leaking all the time, just check the pen to make sure it's not super old. A lot of times we tend to just grab the pen that's closest to us, and you want to make sure that the pen is at least a functional pen. That's why it bleeds a lot. And also try to avoid pressing straight down, because that's where most of the ink is activated. So if you just turn the pen slightly to the side, keep it light, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish just with that. All right, there we go. And I know fingers are pretty intimidating to draw, especially when you're supposedly bending the rules drawing a humanoid and you don't even know the anatomy of a human hand. Okay, so the thumb is going to be bent and hidden, but I'm going to hint at the claw down here. because the way the hand is shaped, that thumb is going to be in the background. Okay, so if I want to play up some values here, see how the thumb is ghosted right in the back? I'm just going to darken the finger in the forefront. Right there. And maybe shade off the edge. So that way you can look directly next to it and see a lighter finger, which is the thumb. All right, the second thing I'm going to have to do is at the claws, I'm just going to darken the claws that are closest to us and kind of brush up some ink into the finger like that. Okay, but I'm not going to touch the thumb in the far background. Now, if you're looking at your work and some of the pen strokes are not even and you're trying to brush technique and it's kind of looking dark and streaky, just don't draw on it anymore. It could be that your hand isn't warmed up or you don't have the pen control to do it. Also, I will say this is something that I forgot. Each individual artist is comfortable holding their pens and pencils a certain way. So if you enjoy drawing strokes from down here upwards, commit to that. If you can do those brush strokes like that. Or you like going from top down. Okay, you start from the left, go to the right, start from up, go down, or whatever direction you want to do it. A lot of old schoolers will say you should never ever, under any circumstance, turn your sketchbook to get the best pencil strokes, and I will disagree with that 100%. Now, there is something to be said about learning how to draw with your hand in one position, regardless of what you want to do, but if you're beginning, turn your sketchbook. Just get used to the mechanical movement. Then that will enable you to draw better stuff. Okay, so let's go and talk about the mistake that I made, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to correct it. So you can see here the deltoid that I originally drew. Well, from the way that the deltoid is flexed, this part of the arm, which is called the humerus, of course, this is a humanoid creature, so I'm just going to use human anatomy reference. This is the humerus, okay? It attaches to the shoulder. You know, you got your clavicle up here and everything. The way it's flexed, the humerus needs to come up this way. So I'm just going to outline where I can put the bicep. Okay, and then I can put the arm in here. And also the length of this forearm, even though it's slightly foreshortened because it's coming at us, is going to roughly be the same length as this one down here. The other one was just way too short. All right, this is how you can double check. Just take a step back, because I had to go get a drink, and I looked at it and go, yep, that's definitely a mistake. All right, so let's fix that. And of course, down here at the elbow, you're going to have two major bones of the forearm. Okay, you got your ulna that comes in and attaches on the inside of the wrist, and then you have your radius on the outside. Okay. Now you won't be able to see the exact bone formation just because there's flesh and muscle and everything on it. But you know, you can check your anatomy books and try to draw those as best you can. Okay, you got your carpal in here. Now, when it comes to the wrist bones, it's good to know all of them, but you don't have to at this stage. We just need to figure out what the heck the hands are actually doing. All right, so let's move this up a little bit. This hand is obviously the selling point, okay, and then this one is pretty much less important, but we don't want to copy the same hand positioning. Okay, so maybe if I just draw a slight tilt of the hand, something weird. Okay, and then maybe the hands or the fingers are coming at us. Okay, so we can do one knuckle, two, and then 3, 4. However, remember the fingers will be coming at us. So these knuckles will eventually be drawn over. We don't need to, put the actual knuckle bone being seen and worry about all of that. And if you really want a good way to practice this, is just do it yourself. Okay, just bend your own fingers and see how those look in any position that you want. Typically the pinky kind of hangs down by itself. It's just the way the human hand is shaped. I'm just going to put in some indications of the finger bending and maybe the underneath part where the palm is. All right, I will be drawing the thumb, but not quite. Okay, because this thumb will have to bend down there. There we go. It looks kind of like a spider, and I may leave it mostly like a spider. It just depends. I also have to be careful about the way that the wrist is tilted and turned so that the hand can actually bend it down like that. One of the great things about being a creature designer, or just designing creatures in general, is that you can kind of get away with, manipulating some anatomy, but you can't go overboard. So we've indicated where, muscles such as the brachialis are located. Some of the bicep up here may be relaxing because he's not really needing to use the bicep. Okay, kind of a skinny arm too, so maybe we can thicken it right here. This is why you keep everything light. Okay, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just outline what you need and then you can move on. Okay, there we go. All right, I hope this lesson is enjoyable for you all. I'm going to start drawing more scary stuff. Just comment below if you want me to draw more scary stuff. Because, this is my bread and butter. I love freaky, demonic, just scary things. I've always liked scary games, always liked scary movies. Just a lot of fun. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm just putting in some dark marks where I'm comfortable where the muscles are located. They're not exactly like a person, but we can definitely get a sense of its functionality. You got like the long head and the short head of the tricep. Got the deltoid in the back here. So much fun. Okay. And the face. You can't forget the face. Now, the next video that I'm going to do, I'll just do a whole body. I just wanted to showcase, how I would start a humanoid, an evil-looking humanoid. All right, so down here, obviously, there's enough room for the legs. So next time around, I'll situate my camera to where it's showing it vertically, or to the best of my ability that I can mount it to show it. That way you can see the full body sketch of a humanoid. Speaking of that, comment below and tell me what you would like me to draw. Okay, this is one of the rare instances, very, very rare, where I could actually do some fan art based on, suggestions. I don't like doing fan art. I have my reasons, but if you would like me to draw something in particular that you think would be neat to see, my own interpretation of it, I can think of stuff right off the bat. You got Xenomorph. I can start with my Pokemon series again, where I just make everything look evil. If you want me to take a cute, cuddly creature and make it evil looking, I can do that too. Or you can have weird suggestions like Huggy Wuggy or Siren Head or one of those odd creatures on YouTube and those kid shows. It'd be really funny if I took a Teletubby and just made it a demon. It's like a demon tubby. I don't know if you would even call it that. Okay, there we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this unfold. I love doing this type of stuff. Next video, I'm going to do a full body one. Let me know if you have a specific creature in mind. I'm open for anything, even an evil Santa. That's fine. If you want me to draw Art the Clown, I could do that too. We're not hanging up yet. I'm just going to put in some shading so you can see how I work that. I'll start off in a specific direction and then I'll turn it slightly. You can probably hear it too. Just very, very light. See how I don't care if I'm going over this? It's because if you keep the strokes light, it's no different than a pencil. The only difference is that the actual strokes are skinnier. So you have to fill in some gaps. You have to be a little bit more careful with filling in those gaps. There we go. All right, what would you name this fella? That's another fun thing to do. What would you name it? Put some of those jagged teeth popping out. Oh yeah. There we go, everyone. Thanks again for watching this. I hope this was fun. We're going to be doing a lot more ballpoint pen sketching too, and comment below if you enjoyed it. What would you like to see me do? Till next time, peace.